right, we are live. Welcome back to Reasoned Answers, your favorite home for all the
crackhead clown individuals.
such as me and Mary. Mary will be joining us here in a second, but I wanted to take some time to go on a little monologue here at the start. So welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about Elon Musk. Elon is a very interesting guy, of course. He's the richest person in the world by most accounts. And in addition to being fabulously wealthy, he's really on top of the world right now because he's got the ear of the US president. In fact, so much so that many have jokingly said that he is the real president and that Donald Trump is just a puppet. Now, I'm sure that's probably not entirely true, but the point is that Elon is highly influential. And he lately has been subtly talking about Islam. So we're going to be looking at what he's been saying because his ideas and his thoughts will definitely influence U.S. policy. I've prepared a number of his statements spanning a period of many years. And we're going to get Mary's off-the-cuff reaction. She has not seen those. But before we get into the main subject of today, I did want to give a little update on the channel. 2 days ago, I released my second response video to my being fired for criticizing Islam. If you haven't seen it, I'll post a link in the chat in a little bit here. And I do encourage you to check that out. In that video, I give the full story of how it all went down. In previous videos, I've given the main outline of it, but in this I go into all the details. And I talk about how a certain ex-CSB employee is central to that story. Within a couple hours of posting that video, I got a privacy complaint from YouTube because I used her actual name. So from now on, I'm just going to call her Lizzie Baby. Now, Lizzie Baby, I know that you are watching this now or will be watching it soon, so I want to directly address you. I don't use this diminutive name to demean you. I'd prefer to be professional and use your actual name, but as you know, that's not an option. You don't want your actual name associated with me or what you have done to me. I know that you think I'm a very bad person, an absolute monster who dares to offer Muslims eternal life in the name of the living Savior, Jesus Christ. I know that you hate me and probably blame me for your own termination from CSB, although I'm not really sure why. It seems to be the logical conclusion of your actions. I know that you're probably really happy with yourself right now and are enjoying my loss. So, let me continue to be a horrible person and take that joy away from you, Lizzie Baby. I'm not suffering. I'm not worried, and I know that everything will work out. I know this because the living God promises as much in his scripture. Although you intended this for evil, he intends it for good, and so your actions are just furthering his kingdom unwittingly. You haven't hurt me. In fact, you've improved my life. You've enabled me to vastly increase my efforts and reach far more Muslims than I ever could without your actions. So thank you very much for that. I'm glad that you filed that privacy complaint, Lizzie Baby, because it tells me that deep down, at some level, you know what you did and are doing is wrong. If what you did was right, you'd be proud of it and want the credit for what you did. Instead, you're embarrassed and don't want your name associated with your actions. Good. This shows that there's hope for you after all. Lizzie Baby, I know that you harbor hate in your heart and want me destroyed. I want you to know I don't hate Muslims and I don't hate you. I love you for the sake of my living Father in heaven who first loved you and wants to come into relationship with you. I forgive you for all you've done to me and apologize for whatever wrong you think I did to you. Why don't you drop me an email at thaddeus@reasonanswers.com, which is listed in the description of every video, and let's schedule a private, confidential chat. You can tell me all the horrible things you think about me, and I'll respond with all the love that God has first shown me. Like you, I'm nothing but a terrible sinner in need of salvation, and thank God every day for what he's done for me. Everything I do stems from his love. Won't you please give me the pleasure of sharing that love with you? Think it over, and I hope to hear from you soon. So now, let's continue with our regularly scheduled program as I bring Mary up onto the stage. Welcome, Mary. What are your thoughts on Elon Musk or anything else that is going on today?
He is an interesting person. He has some good ideas and some really horrific, terrible ideas. And he is very obviously not saved. But let's see what he has come to think about Islam. Because I've seen some of his recent tweets, but I don't know what his history was. I just suggested this as a topic to Thaddeus because he's been interacting with Islam recently. And so he's done the digging and I am ignorant. So
Yes, for once, I have more knowledge about something than
you
Mary.
absolutely
That is
do.
extremely, extremely rare. So I'm going to revel in it, and me knowing what's going to happen and she not knowing, because it's usually the other way. Usually she knows everything, and I am the one who have been finding out. Before we get into that, let me take a couple of these comments here. Jebediah says, Thaddeus' brother, I was shocked to know that persecutions are happening in the United States. Yes, indeed. But we shouldn't be surprised, right? You say you're shocked, but you actually shouldn't be, because it's a promise of Scripture that when you walk in the ways of God, the world will hate you because you are not of the world. So I expect persecution, and you should expect persecution too, regardless of where you are. Now, I have had some comments from people in countries that are far worse to live in than the United States, kind of saying, you're not really being persecuted, Thaddeus. Here, we're under a death threat from Islam or from Hinduism or whatever, because if we speak out about Christianity. And that's certainly true. I'm not suggesting I'm the most persecuted person in the history of the world or anything remotely like that. But I am suggesting that Christians should expect persecution in one form or another. Daughter says, that went to Danae baby, LOL. So yes, Lizzie baby ran to Danae baby, and they got together and made a story about me and how horrible I am. And they made up lies about my channel, but it's okay. It's okay because God is in this.
I still think Danae's working out the trauma of being given such a horrible name in terms of its mythological origins. That'd be like naming your child Danae or Europa. You should not name your children after figures who are only famous for being raped. I'm sorry, that's not cool. It's just messed up. Lita sounds beautiful. Danae, lovely sounding name. But you just look and you're like, oh, golden showers from Zeus. Hi, golden showers from Zeus. And there's no one else historically who's had that name. You know, there's like, oh, you know, the evil Queen Mary who killed all the Protestants, if you consider her that way. But on the other hand, there's many other Marys who are saints and the mother of God and things. But Danae, there's only one Danae. Lita, there's only one Lita. Europa, there's only one Europa. It's pretty... I'm like, Cassandra is a tragic figure, but you can name your kid that. Like, Cassandra was a great figure, but wow. Danae. It's just unfortunate.
Jebediah says that they're browsing randomly and found this chat room, and I've heard that it's a great one. Well, welcome aboard, oh new person of the chat. Around here, you guys are the people of the chat, in reference to how the Quran or Muhammad refers to the followers. Mary says that we just made a scripted video. Indeed, we did. I meant to mention that, but I forgot. We were a little bit late because we ran into a slight amount of problems, but we got that recorded. I'll get that edited very soon, and that will be out. I think I'll probably call it The Beginner's Guide to Jihad. Very good stuff, I must say, which I'm okay with saying because I didn't write it, Mary did, so I'm not calling my own stuff good. Snoopy says public figure complaining about people knowing names, such hypocrisy. Well, I mean, in fairness, she isn't a public figure. She's just a former coworker of mine who decided to take my name to the press in an attempt to get me fired. But then when I mention her name casually while telling my story, that's something really terrible and horrible. The irony of it just blows my mind, but that's all right. Yeah, it really is all right. And I'll take this super chat from our Kitsune as well.
Sir, how can we contribute financially for your organization? They get in touch with me. And very easy, people know where I am. And once they get in touch with me to contribute without causing problem, to contribute in big amounts. And many people call me for lunch and for dinner and for meal, and for every meal they give big amounts, alhamdulillah. So those who really want to contribute, they come and meet me.
All right. Thank you very much for that donation. And if you want to donate big amounts, as Zakharnak desperately needs, then you're going to have to fly and see him in person, because credit card companies will block your donations as being connected to terrorism for some unknown reason. Kitsune says, we'll keep praying for you and your wife, Thaddeus. I'm studying to become a data analyst myself and looking to produce anti-Islam content too, so this hit hard. Did you use R or Python on your job? Which SQL flavor did you use? So that's kind of freaky. You're basically saying like you're training to become me, right? The data analyst who makes anti-Islamic content. That's kind of freaky. Best of luck in that. To answer your question, my job did not involve any programming. I do know computer programming, but my job didn't involve it, so I didn't use R or Python on the job. And my preferred SQL flavor is good old MySQL. At work, though, we mostly used Access databases and Power BI, so MS SQL for that. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. Let me add this to the screen here. So before we get to the first of his quotes, what do you know, Mary, about Elon Musk's opinions of Islam?
I know that he's only recently figured out like about the rape gangs and things like that, and that it's related to Islam, and he did not previously realize that. That is pretty much the extent of my knowledge.
All right, so I searched his public tweets. There could be others that he deleted, who knows, but I searched his public tweets, and he's actually only used the word Muslim explicitly twice in his long history of tweeting or Xing, whatever it's called these days.
Yeah,
and
he
has never
retweets. Retweets stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
he retweets a lot of things, but he personally has only ever used it twice. The first time was in 2013 with this tweet here. Wow, 180,000 Americans killed by other Americans since 9/11 versus only 33 by Muslim terrorists. And then he links to a news story which contains that fact. What do you think about this tweet here, Mary?
If he's talking about the relative danger of dying, then okay, sure. But the fact is any number of Islamic terrorist attacks were averted, and if you allowed as many Muslims to do terrorist attacks as they wished, there'd be a great deal more of a different number. He did write this in 2013. There have been many more since then. And certain things just don't get counted as well. But the fact is, just look at the bombing statistics in Sweden, for heaven's sakes. Like, it has to do with the number of people and who they are and what they want.
Well, as a data analyst, there's a very famous quote that you got lies, damn lies, and statistics. The idea being that you can use statistics to lie far worse than you could with just your words. And what you actually have here is a comparison of two things that are not remotely related to one another, right? Some of those 180,000 Americans who killed someone were no doubt Muslims. Now, most weren't, right? Because we don't have a very large percentage of Muslims here. But it's a murder or a homicide or accidental killing, manslaughter, isn't the same thing as a terrorist attack. A fair comparison would be how many people have been killed by Muslim terrorists plus how many Muslim terrorist attacks have been averted compared to how many other types of terrorist attacks have been how many people have been killed in those and how many of those have been averted by authorities. So you compare two completely unlike things and of course you get completely different numbers. The second tweet that he made in the past that explicitly talks about Muslims. In January 2017, he wrote, "The blanket entry ban on citizens from certain primarily Muslim countries is not the best way to address the country's challenges." Your thoughts, Mary?
Historically, we have had a ban on allowing immigration from any country that believed in polygamy from the 1800s into the 20th century. I find that ban was 1000% successful in avoiding any jihadis in America. Like, sure, why don't we change it? Why don't we make it a ban on those who believe in or practice polygamy? Okay, we'll do that instead. I think it's an excellent way. I think it's an excellent way to prevent all the things that are associated with Islam and Islamic belief and how they treat the unbelievers. Not every individual, and certainly not the ones who are extraordinarily nominal, who just don't eat in public around their parents on Ramadan. But the ones who are actual Muslims, no, it's a good idea not to let them in it because of what their goals must be.
Yeah, so I like your suggestion there, right? Of barring people who practice polygamy, which is illegal in the United States. You think if you want to practice something that's illegal, that would probably be a good reason to deny entry. I do actually agree with Musk here that a blanket ban against anyone immigrating from a Muslim country is definitely not a good idea. I mean, you have legitimate asylum seekers who are trying to escape a government that's trying to kill them, for example, because they don't believe in Islam anymore.
Right. And also there were some people who materially helped America, and I don't think that we should leave them there to be murdered. If that's not cool. You don't treat your allies that way. You don't treat the people who helped you that way. So Hussein Mashni said, that is Steve Mashni, he said we should also ban people who believe in flying donkeys. And that is...
Well, I wouldn't say that's a crime.
There we go. But the point, the reason why. So the early founders understood how fundamental the structure of the family was to a nation. And that was the reason for the ban on polygamy. The reason why the Mormons threw out polygamy and got a new revelation that they don't have to be that they can't be polygamists anymore was because the federal government was going to march over there and shoot them until they stopped practicing polygamy. And they went, maybe we should stop doing this thing before this happens. They were very serious about it because of what it means for society. And thank you very much. Nuance is hard. I enjoy my little scarves too.
Old Catholic says, tuck this ugly hadith in the back of Sahih Bukhari somewhere. No one is likely to find it there. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I don't see another comment with that hadith. But certainly there are so many hadith that the average Muslim doesn't really know exist. But they might not know the actual hadith, but they've still absorbed the religious practices around those hadith. And they may even say, oh, we get this directly from the Quran. And they might be honestly thinking that's true when in fact it comes from hadith, which are the vast majority of Islamic teachings, in fact. All right, let me take this off here. I have one more thing from before recent times. This one is a video clip. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Here. Hopefully I do this right, and hopefully we don't get too many annoying beeps for Mary's sake.
Say like while Rome was falling, Islam was rising, and so you had like the sort of caliphate doing incredibly well while Rome was doing terribly, and that actually ended up being a source of preservation of knowledge and many scientific advancements.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
And as you can see, many Muslims made videos about this clip. I found so many Muslims talking about this on YouTube. Elon Musk said 30 seconds of stuff about history in which he said the word Islam, and it was kind of positive-ish. Therefore, he was certain to convert to Islam any day, these Muslim channels were arguing. This was about 2 years ago that he made these remarks. Your thoughts, Mary?
A very expected reaction. Very expected. And the whole thing, like the idea that Rome was falling while the caliphate was rising, they were kind of related. They were related. I mean, like, Persia was exhausting Rome, and the caliphate was fighting them and they only had one front because the Chinese were the only power to the east, and the Chinese were too far away to mount many expeditions against the caliphate. So they had a one-front war, whereas Rome had a three-front war, generally speaking. It had a western front. It had like this northeasterny front through above the Pannonia, if you guys know where that is in the Danube. And then it had the eastern front. It had three different sides it had to defend from many different groups of people. Okay, they were doing well. All right, I mean, like lots of different empires have done well in the past. That doesn't mean they're good. The Assyrian Empire did incredibly well. The Assyrian Empire was mean.
Mm-hmm. And Elon Musk is correct that the Islamic Empire played some role in the preservation of human knowledge from ancient times. They also played a role in
the destruction, and they
ancient times.
Yeah, in terms of the West, they played a role strictly in destruction, not in preservation. 100% in destruction, 100% in isolation, 100% in harming what was known. Whenever they took over North Africa, a great deal was lost, and much of it was lost permanently. Yes, they ended up having access to some of it, but all of Europe would have always had access to this stuff if they had not conquered Northern Africa. The one thing that they did is they provide a conduit for information from the Hindus of India to reach Europe that hadn't really existed because of the Parthian Empire didn't go all the way into India, and there were not super strong trade connections between Parthia and Rome because Rome developed its own silk industry to get away from being completely controlled by the whims of the various Persian Parthian groups.
And I should also point out that around the same time of this, Elon also appeared on a podcast or something along those lines in which he made comments saying that, well, if creation exists, if the universe exists, then you'd expect there to be some sort of creator behind that, whether that's a being or a force or whatever, I don't know. but creation requires a creation. Creation noun requires creation
A
verb.
creator, yes. Yeah.
Well, yes, but I was saying creation as
Yeah.
a verb. Anyway.
Yeah.
And because of that, people are like, oh, Islam believes in a creator. He's going to become a Muslim.
Virtually every
Which is, of
religious
course,
system.
nonsense. As far as anyone knows, Elon is still very much agnostic, doesn't believe in any sort of deity, made comments that if he turns out that he's wrong and he goes to hell, that's okay, because that's where all the people are anyway. Kind of comments. There's definitely no evidence that he has any kind of religious beliefs. So keep that in mind when we look at what he's saying about things related to Islam. All right, let's get back to the well, actually, let me take a super chat first, and then we'll get back to the presentation. From Nuance is Hard, great username there.
We're asking you to give a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and believe me, that will be paid back in ways you can never imagine.
Who is it that would loan Allah a goodly loan so he may multiply it for him many times over?
Allahu Akbar, I love that verse. Every time we donate to projects, we're giving a loan to our Creator, the most generous, who will return it to us in this life.
Brothers and sisters, can you afford to miss out on this opportunity?
Can you afford to miss out? I don't know. Nuance says Elon is too kind to the Communist Chinese Party, but mostly I like him. I want to know what's so horrible about him. No sarcasm. Well, as your name says, Nuance is hard, right? Elon
It's nuanced, yeah.
Not completely horrible and not completely good. They could be somewhere in the middle. And the purpose of this program today is not to say that Elon is horrible, nor is it to say that he is wonderful. It's just to see what he has to say, because he is such an important, influential figure. And it's a good idea to know what he's thinking about Islam, because it's going to affect foreign policy.
Yes, it will. And as far as things that I'm not enthralled at, the fact that Tesla has gone all in and the kinds of cameras that they use to tell where they are, I do not think that that can lead to full self-driving. I think that you really do need the LiDAR type technology to get to where he hopes to get, or you need to get to complete self-driving. You also need massively more mapping than what the information that his cars are able to keep. He's making promises that he does not have the ability to fulfill as far as that's going. The entire tunneling project is silly. Hyperloop is extra silly. Hyperloop is like on a 1 to 10 scale. It's a 10. It's a 10 in silliness. I'm sorry, guys. It is one of the silliest things.
You don't like the Boring Company?
Well, the Boring Company, whatever. It's not delivering on its promises. If it could, it'd be awesome. Hyperloop ain't ever going to happen. It's just silly. You cannot vacuum tube people across the place. And I did the computations on his original design and just imagined like the ideal situation in which there are no technical problems, and it has very low capacity too. So there are all kinds of problems within all sorts of ways that it's just not well thought through. His idea of everyone having a brain chip implanted in the bionic person, like all of that's nuts. It's horrible. It's grotesque. It's horrific. It's great if you are a person who has no use of your limbs. That would be fantastic to be able to use your motor neurons to control objects or a frame around your body or a robot or something like that. The other uses of that technology are horrifying and should never be done. And the fact that he uses IVF to sex select only boys to impregnate various women is so far beyond creepy that I cannot even express it. And those fatherless children are all going to, the vast majority of them are going to turn out extremely badly, because fatherless children is not something you want to have. Polygamy results in very, very poor outcomes, much less just impregnating someone and then skipping town. I don't care how much money that you have. It doesn't replace a father. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. AWLGX says, girl scream in that video is apt. Makes me chuckle every time. I did not add that. That is actually part of the original video. They didn't bother to re-record it and
She just
get rid of the
screamed.
girl scream. They just left it there. Like, it's fine. Old Catholic says, what is a badly loan? That's a very good question. I would like to know. I mean, kind of a loan is a loan, right? But there's a good loan apparently and a bad loan according to Allah. And then we got Yusuf here. Welcome, Yusuf. I'm glad that you're here. I'm assuming that you're a Muslim, and I'm very glad you're watching this content. If you claim to read the Quran, please provide a verse or something, not just claims.
Okay.
We're here to discuss, not exchange claims without evidence.
What I need you to do is respond to my previous question. You have read Surah Al-Kahf, right? And under the circumstances, it was revealed, those early parts were revealed under the circumstances that the Jews challenged Muhammad to reveal certain things. But that challenge was a trick. There is a fictional book, a novel like Harry Potter. Imagine somebody went to your prophet and said, tell us about the boy who lived, the one with, and then he goes, the boy had parents who were struck down by a serpent, and he had upon his head the lightning scar, and he put it in his holy book and said it was from God. He took Harry Potter and put it in his holy book. The Jews tricked Muhammad into taking Harry Potter, which is the story of Dhul Qarnayn, which is the Alexander the Great, but not as a historical figure. No, these are not things he really did. He was turned into a fictional book that featured someone kind of like him. And it took that fictional book, the Alexander romance, and put it into the Quran. So there is a novel like Harry Potter inside your book. And Muhammad said it came from Allah because the Jews said, tell us about the boy who lived. But instead they said, tell us about the two-horned one. And he just did it. He put a novel, a fiction book, a summary of the most popular, the bestseller, an ancient bestseller fiction book. He took it and he put it into his holy book and said it was from God. So please speak on that.
Yeah, and to Yusuf, we do regularly take Muslim callers who want to debate us on Islamic teachings and whatnot. We're not looking at Islamic teachings today per se.
Nope,
so,
we're just, but we will
it would be weird if I
Quran.
cited a Quran verse to justify or to explain what Elon Musk believes or something along.
Because Elon has not read the Quran.
But I definitely, when we are talking about Islamic scripture and Islamic doctrine and stuff like that, we absolutely bring the evidence every single time. Because you see, that is the proof. All right, let's get back to Elon now. And we looked at this one. So let's go to the next one. One more from some time ago. This from December of 2022. Elon Musk posted this image and said, I'm not brainwashed. Now, a number of Muslims complained about this image, saying, Islam is not about gay pride.
Oh my gosh, they didn't understand it all.
They can't understand that there's a whole bunch of different things being criticized here or being said as sources of brainwashing.
And part of it was Islam. Yeah, and Islam is on the gay pride flag making fun of the Gays for Palestine movement, which is the most ridiculous thing. It's chickens for KFC. Cows for hamburgers.
But yeah, I mean, obviously he's criticizing or suggesting that a wide variety of things are responsible for brainwashing people, including Google there, right? You got Google and you got Facebook, and ironically you got Twitter.
Yeah.
But it's like, all these things, right? I don't think he made this meme. Obviously someone else made it, but he's sharing it. And the person who made it saying all these things are causing...
I like Planned Parenthood on there.
Yeah.
Very nice. Person who made that, right kind of based.
So Personally, although a lot of Muslims complained about this, I don't really think that this is a statement about Islam.
No, it's a statement about the Queers for Palestine movement is what it is. It's on the pagan moon of Islam that really was a genuinely ancient symbol of Islam is on the queer flag here, and that's why. But it's talking about the Queers for Islam movement, really.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we come to the period of time from between the United States presidential election of the fall and the present. Elon, he probably occasionally retweeted a news story about terrorism or this and that. I mean, he sends out like 100 tweets a day, so he probably did say something about it in the past, but people have noticed that since the presidential election, he's been sending out a lot more. And the first subject is on the rape gangs in the United Kingdom. On January 2nd, he responded to a tweet that read, he responded by saying state-sponsored evil to a tweet that said British police were called to a house after a neighbor heard screams. They found a young girl naked and drunk with 7 Pakistani men. They arrested the girl for being drunk and convicted her. They reportedly didn't even question the men. If you look into this, the reason why the girl was arrested is because she was very much a minor, about 13 years old. It would be illegal for her to be drunk. So therefore, that is obviously the problem here. And Musk's response is that this is state-sponsored evil. For this and several other tweets on the same subject, organizations such as CARE has said that he is being extremely Islamophobic and is promoting hatred of Muslims. Now, I don't see the word Muslim in this comment here, which is very interesting that CARE is saying that the only way you could be against gang raping 13-year-old girls is if you're Islamophobic.
Yep, because CARE knows that this is an activity of war done by Muslims against unbelievers, and that this is an Islamic act. CARE knows this is an Islamic act, and that's why CARE's upset about it. Because I would never in a billion years say that if a person from a white majority country, a group of men were raping girls, that criticizing them is Christophobic. I would say that they are not Christians at all, but CARE knows that they're Muslims, and they're true Muslims. CARE knows this.
Pat's Leatherstrap says, always Pakistanis. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but I believe that the vast majority of religiously Muslim people in the United Kingdom are from a Pakistani background because of
I think the majority
UK's
are, but the
historic ties to
Pakistani
it.
rape gangs really outnumber other ones and appear to be deliberately organized.
Right. Well,
as
like you
a
don't see
terrorist
Irish rape gangs, right? You don't.
Well,
see
yeah,
Welsh
but they're also
rape
not
gangs.
Muslims, so there aren't rape gangs.
But what specifically Pakistani is probably just because that's the majority.
No, the Pakistanis are organized rape gangs that
fair enough.
even other nationalities of Muslims are not. They are organizing them as religious jihad against white girls. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for that clarification. Then we got his next tweet on the same subject here. This one, January 5th, so 3 days later. For anyone doubting the severity and depravity of the mass gang rapes of little girls in Britain, go to the source material and read the court transcripts. I did. It is worse than you could possibly imagine. Shame on Elon Musk for looking at what the court transcripts say was happening there. That is clearly Islamophobic. Don't you think, Mary?
Well, according to CARE, it's Islamophobic because according to CARE, this is Islam. Let's be clear. This can only be Islamophobic if this is Islam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Elon's not saying this is Islam, right? He never once in any of these tweets says this is the face of Islam. Yet you have CARE and others saying Elon is showing all the dog whistle signs of being Islamophobic by criticizing this stuff. Very strange, very strange. So let's go ahead and read the portion of the court document that he quotes here. You, Muhammad Karar, prepared her for gang anal rape by using a pump to expand her anal passage. You subjected her to a gang rape by 5 or 6 men, count 30. At one point, she had 4 men inside her, apparently simultaneously. A red ball was placed in her mouth to keep her quiet. Not only were you both involved in the commercial sexual exploitation of GH, I assume that's the girl's initials, you also used her for your own self-gratification. You both raped her when she was under 13. When she was very young, although it's not clear whether she was under 13, you both raped her at the same time, oral and vaginal/anal. It happened on more than one occasion, count 28. So the count there is the charge, right? So this is
Yep. And again,
charge number 28 against this individual. Or
the
count,
fact
charge
that
number
we
30.
do not have the death penalty for these men is obscene. It is an injustice that they are not executed.
Yeah, and again, although the individual's name is apparently Muhammad, there's nothing here to say this is Islam or this is what Muslim people do or anything along that line. It's simply a calling out of the extremely disgusting, perverted, horrific behavior of this individual, which is part of a pattern of behavior which is being ignored because, or was and is still being ignored because, oh, we can't say anything mean against the Pakistanis. They will be racist or will be Islamophobic. It's utter nonsense. I don't care what you look like, right? I don't care if you are a white man, a black man, an Asian man, a Pakistani, whatever. If you rape a child, you deserve to be in prison for life. There's nothing else to say about that. And to say, well, because it was a Pakistani, we should just pretend it did happen is utter nonsense. And that's exactly what Elon Musk is calling out. And for that, he's called Islamophobic. So continuing the court transcript here, we read cases where a child was doused in petrol and threatened with being set alight. Children who were threatened with guns, children who witnessed brutally violent rapes and were threatened that they would be the next victim if they told anyone. Girls as young as 11 were raped by large numbers of male perpetrators, one after the other. And you got a quote from a victim. What's the point? I might as well be dead. In 2 cases, we read fathers tracked down their daughters and tried to remove them from houses where they were being abused, only to be arrested themselves when police were called onto the scene. In a small number of cases, which have already received media attention, the victims were arrested for offenses such as breach of peace or being drunk and disorderly, with no action taken against the perpetrators of rape and sexual assault against children. To which Elon says, imagine you're the father going to rescue your daughter from gang rape and possibly murder, but the police arrest you instead. Yeah, imagine that, right? Yeah, your daughter was kidnapped and people are abusing her, and you take it into your own hands to go and rescue her, and according to the UK police, you're the bad guy who should be charged with a crime because you were disorderly while trying to stop someone from raping your daughter. Unfreaking believable.
Yep.
Your thoughts, Mary?
Well, again, why is CARE upset that people are talking about this? Why is the Islamic community upset that people know that Muslim men are gang raping other girls? Why is that the upsetting thing that people are talking about it in a negative light? Why do you criticize us for all the gang rapes we're doing? Shame on you. You should approve of the gang rapes. Like, that's basically it. They would have no problem with it. They have no problem with the act. They only have problem with the criticism. And they will do anything, and their allies in the government will do anything to stop the criticism. They get allies, they cry, they go, oh, this is so mean. Why? People will think bad things about us. Well, stop doing bad things. If you don't want people to think of you badly, don't do bad things. This is Islam. This is it. This is the house of war when the jihadis cannot fight just by shooting you. They do this instead because they think, they realize, they don't think, they're right. They can do this to you because they now have the allies to, they now have the strength to, they're trying to destroy you. And yeah, since 4 men did it at once, are they the required witnesses? Except this isn't a crime in Islam. Show me one place where it is a crime to do absolutely anything to anyone who is not a Muslim in the house of war in Islam. This is not a crime to Muslims who are following Muhammad. If a Muslim thinks that this is a crime, it's because he disagrees with Muhammad.
Pro-Life Chloe says, hashtag full-time Thaddeus. That is the goal here. Well, not really the goal. That's definitely what's going to happen here, is that Thaddeus is going to be full-time. Now, whether he produces enough income to justify that is to be determined, but I'm definitely giving it a full-time go here. You're going to be seeing a lot of content coming out from me, especially now that kind of got things stabilized completely from a practical standpoint. You know, out of that former job is out of my mind. It's no longer occupying any of my thoughts, and we're producing content. And you're seeing 2 live streams from me in the same week. I think you only saw like 2 live streams from me in all of January, maybe even only 1, because I was so much focused on that job. Now you're getting multiple live streams a week. You're going to get multiple scripted videos a week, hopefully. Obviously, those are a little harder to do, but lots of content coming up, and we are going to destroy Islam. So thank you very much for joining me in that fight. All right, getting back to Elon, we got a third tweet on the subject here of the rape gangs in Great Britain. I don't want to call them British rape gangs. That might give the wrong impression. The rape gangs in Great Britain. A board member of a major British political think tank told me they had prepared a bombshell report on a sensitive matter relating to British, Asian, and Muslim communities. The report's findings were so shocked they got cold feet and shredded it before publication. Elon retweeted this with 2 exclamation points. Now, I don't know if you think I'm Islamophobic or not, but 2 exclamation points seems pretty appropriate here for a government preparing a report on a massive problem of rape gangs and then shredding it because they were afraid of what it said.
Yep.
What do you think, Mary?
Oh, no, I mean, for heaven's sake. They are covering for this activity. That is endorsing it. If you cover for it, you endorse it and you participate in it. You are a rapist if you cover for rapists. And you should be treated as a rapist should be treated. The level of fury that I feel about this matter would be measured in oceans. And it is not some kind of, I mean, every Islamic country that has minorities in it has kidnapping and rape problems. The non-Muslim girls are always in danger of being kidnapped, raped, and forced to convert. And held hostage and forcibly made somebody's wife's slave, because there's hardly a difference in Islam anyway. This is endemic. This is built in. And this would have been endorsed by Muhammad. Muhammad endorsed the raping of women taken in war just because you feel like it. No other consideration. If you feel like having sex with a woman who is in your power and is not a Muslim, do it. That was Muhammad's stance. Don't consider financials. Don't consider their marital status, because apparently it's just worse to rape married women than it is to rape single girls somehow. You should do it. Do it. Muhammad said do it because the lusts of the men are that important to Muhammad and Allah. And also it has a purpose of being a terroristic act. And Mohammed endorsed these terroristic acts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And yes, daughter Galatians 1:6-9, she says it happens in Egypt a lot. They kidnap the Coptic Christians. Many stories. Yes, they kidnap Coptic Christian girls and traffic them away. And every so often, because I'm in contact with a lot of Coptic Christians, I get on my feed, people who live in such and such an area, keep an eye out for this girl who was stolen by and raped by Muslims. Her parents desperately want her back, and they don't know where they know that Muslims took her to rape her and force her into marriage. They don't know where she is.
Very unfortunate and very true, as we know. And I would like CARE to explicitly deny that it is an acceptable act to rape non-Muslim girls or to have non-consensual intercourse with non-Muslim girls in the house of war. Mm-hmm.
Dare you to say that, CARE, because you will not, because you do not believe that it's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's the conclusion. I mean, every time one of these type stories comes to light, you get CARE jumping on it immediately to say, this is so horrible that people are reporting on this because it might cause someone to be bigoted against another Muslim who wasn't part of this act. But they never say this act is vile and depraved and we condemn it absolutely. Of course they never say anything like that. All right. Let's switch subjects. I've had just about all I can take on the abuse of little girls for a little while. So let's switch to subject of terrorism. Now, Musk has retweeted quite a number of news articles on terrorist attacks. He usually doesn't comment, so I didn't spend time to pull all those. Basically, just retweeting a news story, which apparently is Islamophobic to retweet a story about how terrorism took place. But here we do have a very interesting thing from December of 24. Elon Musk comments legacy media lies again, which is something he says constantly about all kinds of things, subjects. Yeah. But in this case, we have End Wokeness tweeting news about the Christmas market. NBC News, suspect in Germany auto attack that killed 5, injured 200, self-identified as Islamophobic. France 24, suspect behind German Christmas attack, Islamophobic, authorities say. MSNBC,
he was a Muslim.
Officials say suspect in Germany Christmas market car attack had Islamophobic views. Yeah. Now, I was going to ask Mary, she couldn't wait. She had to jump in there. I was going to ask Mary what the story is about this Christmas market attack.
Yeah, so he was a Muslim. And for a while, he said some slightly negative things about the Islam that he'd grown up in. But apparently he had to change his views, and he needed to be a jihadi, I guess, to help his former purge all of his sins by killing a bunch of people. And yes, Christian persecution is a daily thing in the Middle East. Lebanon, I wish it were still very much majority Christian. I understand why so many Lebanese left, but it really should be a Christian country. They all should be Christian countries, frankly. So it's very sad.
Woody says, start protesting in front of CARE offices with nasty Quran verses on posters. That'd be pretty funny. It probably would be very productive, but it would be very funny for sure. And Amano Logic says Coptic churches in Egypt have armed guards. Yeah. I would suspect that that's probably true in some cases, probably not all cases, to be fair. But no church, right? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no church should have to have armed guards to ensure that its congregants feel safe while being in the building. And
Oh,
that shouldn't be a thing, right? And
but
yet it is.
And yet it is. Even in the United States, we have armed guards at my church. We have armed people at my parents' church. There are many people who carry. Many of the elders and deacons carry. So.
Cargo says everywhere in Egypt has armed guards, and that's highly possible. I've never been to Egypt, so I wouldn't really know. But if true, then obviously that gives some perspective on the previous comment. All right, so Elon tweets that legacy media lies. His actual agenda here, is it to criticize Islam? No, it's to say that you shouldn't trust mainstream media, you should trust Twitter. Wow.
Well,
so
I mean, kind of, yeah.
I mean, that's really what he's getting at, right? Is that you should get your news from people you trust on Twitter. All right, so then we got another one of these. Breaking news. Berlin stabbing suspect revealed to be a 19-year-old asylum seeker from Syria. How many times? Vote AFD is the original tweet, to which Elon Musk replies, how many times must this happen? Now, I don't see any indication about the suspect being a Muslim or that this being the fault of Islam. So if this is Islamophobic, the only way that could be is if anyone who is doing a stabbing is very likely to be a Muslim. Am I correct, Mary?
That does seem to be like it. It does seem to be like what's going on here.
Because there are definitely people who are not Muslim in Syria, and they could be asylum seekers trying to escape the Islamic government of Syria. So if this is something to call Elon Musk out for, and spreading Islamophobia while not using the term Muslim or Islam and simply saying someone's from Syria, then I guess the conclusion that people calling this Islamophobic are trying to get us to understand is that it is perfectly normal in Islam to stab someone. I don't see any other conclusion.
Yeah, apparently so. And it's kind of ironic. Let's you know, the fact is that the most valuable thing that has happened on Twitter, other than the fact that I'm not permabanned all the time, because the second that I say anything critical of Islam or of men and women's dresses in women's locker rooms, I don't get banned now. But the other thing that is so valuable are the comments that people are allowed to add now, the fact checking done by the masses. So much better. Things, for example, like the folks who took money to tweet against not allowing people to buy sodas with their SNAP benefits. That's food stamps. And people got caught secretly taking money to talk against that, and they got called out. And because of the way it works now, you can have the fact-checking note attached to it done by groups, and that is massively beneficial. But that doesn't mean that there isn't tons and tons of disinformation on Twitter.
Oh, no doubt,
it just means that
say anything.
you and people can say anything, and people do say anything, even the wildest sorts of things. But you have the ability to have other people call them out and to check and to look up things, and people get caught out. And when they do get caught lying, it's public. It's not this. I mean, I remember back in the day, as soon anybody who's anywhere close to my age remembers, back when every single newspaper had open comment sections, and articles would be corrected by readers when things were misrepresented, when people were lied about, when journalists weren't doing their jobs. It would be corrected by the commenters in the newspapers. And newspapers became trash and worthless when they shut those off. Mm-hmm. But in the day when every single newspaper had a comment section under every single article, it could be massively valuable, especially when the article was really badly written and you could find out what actually happened with sources so much more easily.
Snoopy says AfD, whatever that is. So just for reference here, it's a German political party, usually vilified as being extremist and hateful. I don't know any of the real facts about the matter. I'm not familiar with German politics, so no comment from me there. I'm just letting you know.
They just don't want mass migration. That's it. That's why they're extremist and hateful. We should not have mass migration of Muslims who want to kill us and who are raping, and the people who rape women ought to be kicked out. That is far right and hateful. So unless you want your daughters to be raped, you're hateful.
I will say that, Mary, you did miss something else, which is really, I think, beneficial of Twitter. Now, there are a lot of things that are not beneficial for sure, but
yeah,
that the
oh,
fact
it's addictive.
that of what I'll call citizen reporting. So
yes.
when the protests were taking place in Iran, this is the primary way that people were finding out about it, was people posting videos and such on Twitter.
Yep. I still think that America ought to drop about 500,000 small arms and tons of ammunition, and the Iranian government would fall tomorrow. Wouldn't need to put an American boot on the ground. It's just that the people have no money, or have no weapons, and have no money to get weapons, and have no ability to ship weapons into their country. They can't buy weapons to overthrow. Only the government has a monopoly on violence, and so they cannot overthrow them. It would be gone tomorrow if you did that. Yeah, an alternative for Deutschland. So it's alternative to mass migration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that the primary position of the party is 100% anti-immigration. Obviously, they have other positions as well, but that's the primary position that they emphasize.
I just want to be very clear. I'm not anti-immigration. I'm married to an immigrant. I have mixed-race children. I don't think you should let in people who want to rape and kill you and who will not follow the law. I mean, I think that should be a very sensible kind of approach. So,
yeah, I mean, crazy radical idea there that criminals should not be allowed to immigrate. And for the record, I also am pro-immigration. I am not against immigration, and in fact, I'm pro-Muslim immigration under the right circumstances, because I actually think that it gives us a great opportunity to evangelize to Muslims who we probably would not otherwise be able to reach. So I'm all for immigration, but I'm also against, like Mary said, immigration of criminals or people who think your laws are wrong and don't want to follow your laws. They can have that opinion, but if you don't want to follow the laws of the country, then you shouldn't go to that country.
I mean,
radical idea, I know.
I have no sympathy for people who go to Dubai, break the laws there, and are like, it's terrible, I'm being oppressed, help, I'm being oppressed. It's like, you went to Dubai and you broke the laws. What did you think was going to happen? So
yeah,
it's not
that's
even
actually
like
a very good point there, right? Because that's the same thing from the other way around, right? If you as an American choose to go to an Islamic country, or the UAE, which is only, somewhat Islamic, and then you choose to break their laws because you don't like their laws and you want to follow American laws, well, that's your problem, not theirs.
Right. And if you're like even upset about the fact that there's a massive 2-tier legal system, you could find that out before you went there, guys. Like, sucks to be you, but why did you go there? And then do the things you did, right?
Continuing on here, another tweet along the same lines. Elon Musk just tweets out a thought. Could what happened to the Yazidi people one day happen to Europe? This tweet was highlighted by Islamic organizations as being extremely Islamic phobic, and then you see that the Grok AI provided an answer to it. I don't know if Musk intended it to do that or not, but it did. And so he's extremely Islamophobic by wondering if what happened to the Yazidi people could one day happen to Europe. I mean, it's terrible that he's calling out the plight of a very disadvantaged class, a very oppressed and abused people who are not Christians, by the way, right? This is not
Yep.
like, ooh, yay, Christians, ooh, boo, Islam. No, he's saying these people were hurt. What were they hurt by? Things like ISIS. Could this
And if
happen
you-
to Europe? Think
Yeah.
about it.
And if you go,
Islamophobic,
oh my goodness, but they were there for so many years before then. Yeah, they were there and they were horribly oppressed and mistreated. They weren't genocided consistently because they are still alive. However, a true Islamic, just because you're majority Muslim doesn't mean that your leadership is going to be truly Islamic. There are very brief times in history where you will have the leadership of a country actually try to really follow Islam. And of course, if you're, think about the history of Western Europe. How many times have we had truly pious leaders as kings? It's minority of the time that you have a legitimately pious person as a king. It's less than 50%. And to do that in Islamic areas, it drops much, much, much farther because of the kinds of things that are demanded of a true Islamic leader. So,
Mukau says, share the stream, guys. Thank you for that reminder. I always forget to ask people to like and share. So please like this video. Please share it. Even more importantly, to help spread it to people, because our goal here is to spread the truth, to have people informed so they can make educated decisions rather than acting out of hatred of one kind or another. I know that that's very anti-Islamic of me to say that people shouldn't act out of prejudice and hatred. They should act out of facts, because facts are, of course, anti-Islamic. So this makes me Islamophobic. Then we got another highly ridiculous and controversial statement by Elon Musk here from January 10th. Allowing ISIS fighters back to Europe simply sets the stage for terrorist mass murder. I don't understand why anyone would oppose this tweet, but people did. You let a group internationally recognized by everyone as terrorists into your country. That means you're letting terrorists into your country. You probably
don't
shouldn't
understand.
do that.
Imagine for a moment that there was some sort of weird white supremacist jihadi group in America that came out of Idaho, okay? These Idahoan jihadi folks who decided that they want to form a white supremacist state that was being shaped in, I don't know, Colombia. And so they traveled to Colombia to slaughter some of the locals and join the others of the white supremacist empire or whatever, right? And their ideology is that everyone who doesn't follow their flavor of even if they're just racist and they only want to kill all the people who aren't white, right? Not fewer people, right? If you let them back in the United States, wouldn't you predict that they would still kill the people who aren't white? Not even all the people who disagree with them, right? That would be like a reasonable fear. And all of these people who are like, right now about that would never want someone who came and joined some sort of weird white supremacist cult that killed people. Like, they wouldn't want them back. But, you can't say ISIS. Jihadis, they're a protected class now. It's insane.
Cody says, oh, people love the chat. Like the live stream. Appreciate that. And a daughter says, I shared 2 videos on my YouTube post. I know that to be 2 of my videos, even though it wasn't said that. I never do that, and I appreciate that very much. I appreciate all the people who've recently been sharing my videos in various ways, many of which I'm aware of. Others I probably am not aware of at all. Appreciate you all. And just so you know, I see this, at least if they're a YouTube post, I see the stats of the number of people who click on that and watch the video as a result. And even from people with, only a handful of followers, there's usually a couple views, which means you're doubling or tripling the impact of your view just by sharing that. And that's how real change happens, right? Real change doesn't happen from one very important person saying something and sending it to a whole bunch of people. It happens by lots of people sharing it with people they know. This is how Christianity was spread, and it's how truth can be spread today. All right. The next tweet of Elon Musk, I will say, is non-sarcastically actually pretty controversial here. So he retweets something from James Jeanette, who says, "Are you ready to have your mind blown? U.S. aid has given a total of wait for it, $164 billion to terrorist-linked organizations," which Musk retweets and says, "As many people have said, why pay terrorist organizations in certain countries to hate us when they're perfectly willing to do it for free?" And we'll get to see who all these terrorist organizations are. But the first one on here is well over half the total aid, American Near East Refugee Aid. Then we got Arab American Institute, Bayadar, Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy, and then a bunch more on the next slide. I won't read all these.
Yep.
I don't know about all these organizations or any of them, really. Mary, what are your thoughts?
I am familiar with a few of them that are totally linked to terrorism. So
I would suspect that probably not all these organizations.
Probably not all of them, but I do know that some of them are.
And CARE's not on this list, but we know we know for sure that they are closely linked with terrorists. So I don't know. I mean, most of these seem to be, charitable organizations. That doesn't mean they're not also doing unsavory things behind the scenes. I think that this probably was not a great thing to retweet, though, because he's endorsing this, and I'm sure he has no knowledge of whether any of these organizations are linked to terrorists or not.
Yeah, no, I think they're like one that was familiar was Islamic Relief. It's closely linked to Islamic Brotherhood. It funnels money to Islamic Brotherhood. A lot of these I have heard before and have been.
Yeah, so
maybe not all of them, but yeah.
We could definitely dig into these and see one way or another. My point isn't whether these are or not, right? Because I don't know. But I'm quite certain Elon also doesn't know, and yet he's endorsing this statement. So, my opinion, this is probably the one tweet of his that I would say is actually inappropriate. All right, so the next one here, Elon responds with 2 question marks.
Yeah, U.S.-funded NGOs praising terror. That's one of the first one is one that's on the record praising terror. So, yeah, I do not think that he is. For the vast majority of the money, here's the thing. You have to understand what Zakah is for. What zakat is for in Islam. Was it for? It is to help the widows and orphans of jihad and to help fund jihad. That's the definition of aid. That's the definition of charity. That is what the purpose of it is. And so it would not seem in the least bit inappropriate for an Islamic organization to take charity money and funnel it. That is aiding the refugees. How do you aid them? You aid them by arming the militants who will kill all the Jews and let them take the land. So the chances that huge portions of this money, and if nothing else, money is fungible. So they feed the family. Now you can take the money that would have fed the family and spend it on what? Spend on weapons instead. That's what a huge amount the money for these things is realistically doing. So I do not think that his overall point is wrong. Unfortunately, I would like it to be wrong. It's sad that it's not wrong.
All right, so moving on then, we have Elon with his vast commentary of 2 question marks to this tweet. British religious scholar Abu Walid says it's necessary to impose humiliating laws for non-Muslims in Britain and to convert them. And I have down.
Okay, wait 1 second. Video. 1 second. I have an emergency. I will be back in 1 second. It's not a bad emergency, but I will.
Yep, no problem. I will interact with the audience here for a minute. All right, what do we got here? Western countries should have united and banned Islam after 9/11. I would disagree with that statement. I don't think that the answer to Muslims trying to eliminate Christianity is to, by fight, eliminate Islam. You don't fight oppression with oppression. And that's my opinion on that. The actual way to end Islam is to get the information of how obviously false Islam is. And it may not seem to have an effect immediately, right? You may tell 100 Muslims that the same information and they may all act like it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect them in any way, shape, or form. But then you find out later that half of them have doubts in their mind. And then a couple of them come forward and say, I'm an ex-Muslim. And suddenly a whole crew of people, now that it's safe, are admitting to be ex-Muslims as well. Answer to is lame is to stop funding it, then it collapses. Well, certainly, I don't think anyone should be, any non-Muslim should be funding Islam in any way. Certainly can't disagree with that. Let me take a super chat. This one from Hussein Mashni.
Yeah.
من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا? Who is gonna give Allah a good loan? Ya akhwati, this verse puts shame in my heart. My Lord is asking for a loan. Nothing's wrong with that guy. He has ability, but only a little bit of cash flow problems. Just needs a little bit of money right now. So give to Allah. Don't ask for anything back, guys.
I think that one is Mary's favorite.
Yes, it is my new favorite.
Hussein says, great will be your reward, brother. Thank you very much for that. I did see a notification that you'd sent me a message. I haven't actually read the message yet. I've received like somewhere between 50 and 100 messages that I need to reply to. Lots of outpouring of support. Thank you guys very much for that.
And Thaddeus is well known for how good he is at answering emails.
To everyone who sent me messages. Definitely doing that within the next day or two. And thank you for the financial support.
So yeah, my question is he wrong? According to all Islamic doctrine, is there any branch of Islam that says that this comment is wrong?
No.
No, he's correct. This is what Islam teaches. It is necessary to impose humiliating laws for non-Muslims in Britain and convert them. In fact, if you are neither Christian nor Jewish nor Sabaean, whatever the heck that is, because nobody ever knows, it was a very flexible category. It allowed lots of people not to get killed. But you should be killed. Now, that wasn't always done. In India, there were just too many people to murder. There wouldn't be anybody left. So they just kind of pretended that some of them could be dhimmis, even though under Islamic law they could not. Just because, if you completely empty the land of all people, you'll be poor again. And really you need all those people to do all this work for you. But yeah, that truly is, that is what Islam teaches. It's not some sort of, he's just saying this on his own. He's making it up. No, that's a true teaching of Islam. So.
Cargo says only when there's a replacement to oil will the funding stop. And that's actually kind of a really good point here.
Oil will run out. It'll run out.
yeah, when the oil becomes not so valuable anymore, then the Middle East system that's providing the vast majority of funding for outreach efforts and terrorism will disappear. So there is hope on the horizon there. Cody says, I love how this channel is run. Shoestrings. I think, thank you for that comment. I mean, you're kind of implying that it's very amateur, but that's all right. Snoopy says, emails. Thaddeus answers emails. Well, to be clear, Thaddeus hasn't answered emails, but he plans to. He plans to within the next couple of days. And it looks like Mary had to step away again. So let me take a couple more comments from the audience here. Our Kitsune said, and all because Thaddeus ate Chick-fil-A in the office. What a monster. Indeed. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I do know that that was one of the complaints made about me, was that I ate Chick-fil-A. But I don't know for sure that that was what triggered.
Are you
little
serious?
Lizzie
She's so
baby.
hateful. How dare you eat Chick-fil-A? Because that triggers me.
Mm-hmm. She said
Woman
that
is
I was
lunatic.
being very aggressive and hateful. And one of the examples she gave was that I ate Chick-fil-A. And not only did I eat it, I said out loud to my friend, do you want to go to Chick-fil-A for lunch today? And thus she heard
Who
it.
ate the apple?
It was even more incensed.
Oh my goodness. See, that's going in my article. I have a very long article that's 3/4 of the way done. But it's not finished yet. And that is going in my article.
I can definitely give you some more information.
Yeah, I'm going to send you the rough, and I want you to add just the nuttiness. Because Liz is a nut.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then along the same, well, on the same subject anyway, Quee said, if Lizzie Baby is the reporter that slandered you and tried to get you fired as much as her actions are wrong, remember Romans 12:14. Bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse them. I suspect, so you made this comment like halfway through the stream. I suspect you probably started watching it from the beginning and probably hadn't heard my whole response. But if you still feel that way after you heard my whole response and what I said in it, then do let me know what you think was inappropriate. I'm not saying that like sarcastically or something. I would actually like to know because I'm counting on you guys to keep me on the right path and not venture into hatred or revenge or something along those lines. But my intention absolutely is to revel in the persecution and to pray for those persecuting me.
You know, one of my kids, one of my kids got the first very valuable internship specifically because he had worked Chick-fil-A as a teenager, because they said that that they know that you're they've had experience with people from who worked Chick-fil-A in high school, and they liked that more than his 4.0 GPA. Like, that was more important to them, that those two things there together, they're like, man, we need you, which is pretty funny.
For some reason, I didn't hear it trigger who ate the apple, but I assume that Professor Yaffle was saying, who ate the Chick-fil-A? You ate the Chick-fil-A. All of it? Yes, all of it. But you left behind a tiny breadcrumb, and you put it into the earth.
Round.
And how many chickens grew from that breadcrumb? Okay.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, in case people don't understand why this might offend someone, people who are not from the United States and don't know what Chick-fil-A is, Chick-fil-A is run by a Christian family. They are closed on Sundays, which is extremely uncommon for businesses these days.
Yep.
And probably about 10 years or so ago now, there was a controversy because the owner of the company made some comments about how he opposed gay marriage, and there was a massive boycott Chick-fil-A campaign organized as a
No, I think
result.
it was just that they donated to Salvation Army, who didn't.
No, he definitely made some comments.
Oh, he also made some comments? Okay.
To a Christian publication that
Got
he
it.
personally opposed it. Now, the restaurant has never been accused of discrimination.
No.
They've never been accused of discriminating against people who
Well,
identify as gay or anything like that.
It was spectacularly unsuccessful because immediately after going in the news, like the lines at Chick-fil-A just went from being bad to being like comedic.
Yes.
And it wasn't even political people who were lining up. They're like, oh, Chick-fil-A's in the news. That sounds good. Let's get some.
So there was an organized counter campaign. There was one specific day that was designated as Eat Chick-fil-A Day.
Yeah, but that lasted for months. The line.
Well, see, what I think happened, Mary, what I think happened is people went there on Eat Chick-fil-A Day in protest. Then they're like, wow, this food is really, really good. It's way better than other fast food. And then they started eating there when they had never previously done so because they didn't know.
Yep. Oh.
Because everyone, including people who hate Chick-fil-A, admit that the food is very good.
Yep.
Anyway, this was not a paid advertisement for Chick-fil-A,
No.
believe it or not. That was just my honest opinion. All right,
I eat fast food like once every several months, so like take that as what it's.
I did also download the video from this original, the tweet that Elon retweeted. So let's take a minute to watch that. Well, I guess it'll definitely take more than a minute since it's a 3-minute long video, but I won't pause it. We'll just play it through and then we'll add a little bit of commentary. Sure. It pretty much explains itself. There's not really a lot that needs to be said about it. All right. So let me share the appropriate thing now. Add that to the scene.
Equality to all of its members. Is there such a thing in Islam? Is there equality of faith? If we look to one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the authority of Abu Huraira, Sahih Muslim. So no Sunni Muslim can really argue against Sahih Muslim or Sahih Bukhari. Rasulullah said, don't greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you, and when you meet any of them on the roads, force them to go on the narrow side of it. And Imam Malik, he said the same thing as well. In fact, Umar ibn Khattab, who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if there was to be another Nabi after me, it would be Umar ibn Khattab in his own charter, not charter of United Nations, in his charter with the people of Sham, with those Christians of Sham, in his charter was Kafir and Muslim, they're not allowed to wear the same clothes as one another. If the Muslim, he comes out on the day of Eid and he sees Kafir with nice clothes, the Kafir has to take his clothes off and give it to the Muslims. The Kafir, when he walks inside the street, he has to wear a red belt around his neck, and he has to have his forehead shaved, and he has to wear two shoes which are different from one another. He's not allowed to walk on the pavement. He has to walk in the middle of the road, and he has to ride on a mule. And that's only for the adults, not for the children. And you can see how Islam would make the child become a Muslim. The kafir, or the child growing up in a state of kufr, he will turn to Islam. Why? Because the child will be walking along with his dad. They say, Dad, yeah, why you got your forehead shaved? I don't know whether these Muslims, they make me do it. Why you got to walk? Why can't you ride the animal? Like the Muslims, they ride the animal like this. Why are you walking with both legs dangling on the side of the donkey? Why is it every time the Muslim comes to you, he asks you for your clothes, you give it? Why is it every time he tells you to get down from the horse, you have to take it? And not only that, he said the kuffar, they can have their churches. They can have their churches, but they're not allowed to ring the bell. And if a Muslim, he's walking by, let's say, for example, a Muslim's been on Edgware Road, for example. He's had some nice shisha, some nice steak, no hubble bubble, we don't deal with anything like that. And he's walking along and he's rubbing his belly and he's like, oh man, I don't want to upset my wife tonight. What he can do, he can go to the church, knock on the door, John, let me in. Okay, no problem. John has to put up Abdul Ghafoor for the night. Abdul Ghafoor with his big belly, having his nice kebab, John has to open up the church and he has to go there and sleep there nice and comfortable and say, all right, John, thank you, and then carry on going early in the morning. Which wife is going to live with John under that type of circumstances? What kind of honoring is this for me to live with John and Abdul Ghafoor comes every Friday night and sleeps in our bed as well? Of course. Because sunnah is to look after the guest, isn't it? I can't make you sleep on my floor if you can't. You're a Muslim, by the way. So what about when Abdul Ghaffur goes to John's house? John, sleep on the floor, and I'll sleep on the bed. What's going to happen? Tracy's going to be on the floor thinking, my husband, he's got a forehead shaved, and this one, look at this one, Khatab, mashallah. Which one's more attractive? We're not gay, but I'm just saying. A man with his forehead shaved,
Yeah, you are.
belt around his neck, and 2 different colored shoes, or Amir Khatab. Amir Khatab, we're talking about here now, with that nice Chechen hat, big beard, you know, a bit to the side, yeah? And he's got the badges there, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, yeah? And he's got a big gun, and he's got a big camouflage jacket on, nice boots, gloves as well. Even if he's got a couple of fingers missing, still looks attractive. Yeah? What's Tracy going to do? John's in for a problem. He just let him in for a kebab, he lost his own wife as well. So everyone's going to become Muslim. That is, my dear brothers, the Islamic State.
All right, so that is the video clip that Elon Musk retweeted there. As Mary kind of chimed in there, a little odd that he feels the need to say, I'm not gay.
Yeah, yeah.
A little,
Well, here's
he
the
doth
thing.
protest too much, I think.
The number one thing, are there any cops in the chat? What do Muslims use Christian houses and Jewish houses for? Who do they take there? There might not be any cops in the chat, but they take their lover boys to especially Jewish houses, but also Christian houses. And they require that the Jewish or Christian family vacate the room in which they wish to fornicate. And then after they are done, they demand food, having taken their teenage boy lovers into those houses. And that was extraordinarily common. One of the most common forms of humiliating people is that you are having intercourse with a young Muslim boy on the marital bed. So
I will say that is definitely pretty humiliating.
yeah. And
to have someone demand to use your house for sexual intercourse.
Yep.
And you having no option but to allow them. I think that hit, the Muslim preacher's point there is very valid. This will make people become Muslim. And now he's saying that as a good thing, of course. But we, being rational humans, might say that this is a very bad thing and something horrific about Islam.
And sadly, this is true of many of the ancestors of many of the people in Egypt and other places in the Middle East. Either they are descended from girls who were stolen and made rape wives, or they gave in to injured pride, greed, and a desire for respect from people who deserve no respect, and converted to Islam. Notice how he is not talking about the truth of Islam. Nobody converted to Islam because they thought it was true. They really didn't. It's the dumbest religion ever. Even in the time of Muhammad, the vast majority of his converts converted because he was killing other people and had lots of booty. That's why they converted. There was a terrible, terrible famine, and he had a bunch of money because he'd just stolen a whole bunch from all the Jews he'd murdered. And so he had that to offer people. And so they converted to Islam for the benefits. That's why they immediately after he died, there were the Ridda Wars, the apostasy wars. Everybody was like, okay, we're done with this now because we don't have a lot of money. But, the money's not rolling in anymore. Muhammad's gone. There's no reason to stay.
Mm-hmm.
People did not convert to Islam even among the original group of companions, except for a minority because they had any faith in Muhammad. The vast majority converted rather than be killed or so that they could get booty. And later on, the vast majority of people converted for the benefits of no longer being humiliated. If Islam were a good argument, people would have converted because of their good argument. But even in the United States, why do people convert? Oh, to marry a Muslim man. Why do people convert? Oh, because someone said a lie about how racist Christianity is, and Muslim just loves black people so much. The religion of black people is totally Islam, in spite of the fact that what Islam actually teaches about black people is totally horrific, and Islam has been the number one slaver of black people for 700 years now, or 1400 years now. So it's baffling and it's astonishing, but Islam never wins on the merits of Islam. It never wins on its own narrative. People only convert for other reasons.
Nori says equality in Islam, indeed. I mean, that's his first point, right? Is there equality in Islam? No, there's no equality in Islam. That's not me saying that. That's not Elon Musk saying that. That is the Muslim preacher saying it. I'll put the tweet back up on the screen here. This is Abu Walid who is saying this. There was a question about what the context of this was. Is this Muslim stuff or a debate? He's preaching in a mosque. Well, it might not be a mosque. He's preaching to a Muslim audience. He's teaching Islam to Muslims.
Yep. He is teaching Islam to Muslims, and this is how we should behave.
That we should be trying to humiliate non-Muslims because that makes them convert to Islam. Pat's Leatherstrap says, dude, gay AF. And Akitsune says, plot twist, if someone reiterates they're not gay, they're gay. It is a little suspicious that he felt the need to throw that in there, right? If I was saying that a male was an attractive individual, I would have not felt the need to say, but I'm not gay, but I'm not gay.
Yeah.
Right? You can say someone of your own gender is attractive.
Yeah.
And that not be a sexual comment. But the fact that you need to clarify it's not a sexual comment is a little interesting, to say the least. Mark Fish says, ring them bells. Ring them bells. And Cargo Crew said that tweet was a big deal. Indeed, this might be the tweet of Elon Musk that drew the most attention of any of those that we've looked at. Definitely some of the others drew considerable attention as well, so it's a little hard to say which is the most. But this one drew a lot of attention. A lot of people were like, oh, Elon Musk is being so hateful. I bet you could find dozens of videos from Muslims on YouTube right now talking about this tweet and what a monster Elon Musk was for tweeting out 2 question marks in response to the words of this Muslim. Right? Everything said is coming from the mouth of the Muslim preacher talking to Muslim audience, and all Elon says is, what the heck is going on here, basically?
Yep. Because he honestly, I'm sure, had absolutely no idea. He's like, what is this guy talking about? Is this true? Is he accurately representing Islam? Now, I would like to hear all the Muslims say that he is lying about Islam and give sources. So Care, I'm sure, wants to say that this is totally Islamophobic, because you're not supposed to talk about things that keep Muslims from actually oppressing other people. But what I want to see is the evidence that this is untrue.
Yeah, if a Muslim says that this is just some extremist making up his own nonsense, even though, as he himself points out, this is in Sahih Muslim, which you're not allowed to doubt. Right? Yeah. Well, he says that. He literally says, you're not allowed to doubt Sahih Muslim, and this comes from Sahih Muslim.
So, Care, do you say that this is false and he is teaching falsely? Because you can find people who claim to be Christians saying horrific things. And I would say that they are false and teaching falsely, and I would have evidence for that fact from the fathers, from modern theologians, from the Bible itself, from all of these different sources. I would have a consensus that whatever horrible things some person was saying is untrue. So my question is, if this is Islamophobic to talk about, why? Is it Islamophobic because it's untrue, or because it will make people think that Muslims are horrible people because it's a horrible thing that Muslims actually do believe?
Daughter asks, how dumb and stupid can you be? Very. No context needed, just very. Let me take one more of the super chats. This one from Pat's Leather Straps.
Wasting your time on social media is one of the best deeds a Muslim can do. There's a huge need for it. You know this and I know this. So that makes the reward even greater. So give generously and Allah Azza wa Jal will give you even more.
Pats says, glory to the Ramadan Raiders of the Ali D channel.
That was hilarious. So I don't know whether or not you guys saw it. Did you see the raid of
I
Ali
saw
Dawa's
the
channel?
statement that it happened, but I have not seen the actual clip yet.
It was pretty funny. So Ali Dawa was streaming, and even though he has like 1 million followers, he only had 50 people watching it. At the same time, they had 2,000 watching with IP, AP, and oh my goodness, why am I going blank on the third person? I'm going blank on the third person. I'm so sorry, third person. But anyway.
Was it God Logic?
Yes, God Logic. I don't know how I could forget God Logic. But anyway, IP, AP, and God Logic were watching, and they just commented that he was streaming at the same time and only had 50 people watching, talking about how quickly favorite Dawa people rise and fall. And so then people started going over there, and they're like, oh, this is hilarious. They're like, say Christ is king, say Christ is king. And they were doing that. And then they turned on subscribers only mode. So you had to be subscribed for 20 minutes. So a bunch of people subscribed. And then 20 minutes later, they were able to talk again.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But he went from 50 people watching to 200 people watching. And so, of course, the chat was only the Christians giving him a hard time.
It was one of his stupid fundraising streams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it wasn't fundraising, he
those.
probably would have more people watching, in fairness to Ali Dawa. But he's been begging for money constantly for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so people are sick of it and don't want to watch. Like his own viewers are sick of it and don't want to watch. Giant Tree says, I'm at the part where Thaddeus is pulling up the video where Elon mentioned 30s of Islam's positively clear. All this is kind of according to the dollar. Yeah, they only killed 33 people. They only killed 33 people. It's no big deal, guys. No big deal.
Yep.
And praise to our law enforcement who stopped dozens, if not hundreds, of terrorist attacks that could have each killed 33 people in that time span.
Yep. Honestly, we need an intelligence agency that's way more like Mossad. It's really funny because they have the best intelligence agency in the world by far. Something happens and like America's like, Mossad, could you give us any intel that you happen to have on this? People were freaking out about the Kennedy assassination, right? Because America asked Mossad if they had any intel on it, and Mossad handed over whatever they had, and then requested that it be blacked out, which it was because it could be potentially sensitive information, etc. So they're like, oh, the Jews was behind it. No. Mossad spies on everyone, including us. Mossad is our allies who spy on us more than hardly anyone else because they spy on everyone. So they will have intelligence all over the world, human intelligence, and a lot of the countries have let their human just fall apart since World War II, and really since the Cold War. Our human is terrible, but even since World War II, most of our human like just fell to pieces, and it's kind of irritating how bad it is.
Alexander corrected us. Actually only had 35 people, not 50 watching.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Forget that
35.
And I do believe we have more than 50 people watching right now. So my channel of 27,000 subscribers is getting more people on live streams than Ali Dawa's channel of 1.3 million subscribers. Pretty interesting for sure. But like I said, it's because he's been begging for money for weeks. And saw a hilarious clip of him like jumping up and down for joy, screaming at the top of his lungs because he got a donation. What a nutcase. What a nutcase for sure. All right. So we have one more tweet for today. This one from February 22nd. Someone tweets out this cartoon, Germany in a nutshell. I killed infidels with my car. What are you in for? I insulted a guy. And
Yep.
Elon responds, actually true. And I feel that this one's especially appropriate for my circumstance here. You got a group of people going around saying that you can't say anything mean against the terrorists. You can't say anything mean against child rapers. You can't say anything mean against Muslims who are openly calling me the worst of all creatures and saying how they long for the day when they can violently subjugate them. And then you got me saying, this is bad, and I'm the one who is punished. So I thought it was especially appropriate. I endorsed this cartoon. Your thoughts, Mary?
Yeah, I mean it's literally true. And it's kind of wild because here is my very controversial opinion. We have decided as a society that we shouldn't tell children upsetting things, right? Only high level thing for a while, a long time ago, like in the 1960s. If you go turn back to Victorian era children's history books, you will have descriptions, not gruesome descriptions, but descriptions of wars and practices and battle deaths and things like that that are honest, that are true, right? You'll have these descriptions of these events that really did take place and traditions that people had that are horrific. You know, they will talk about the burning of widows. Not only will they talk about that, they will talk about after the burning of widows, the mistreatment of widows, the throwing out of widows into the street, the neglect of widows in India will be talked about. The idea of the gauntlet, running the gauntlet, was something that was a term for something that occurred by the Native Americans and what they did to their prisoners of war, that they would ritually torture and then by chopping and stabbing at people as they made them run through a tunnel of people, and then they would ritually dismember them and eat parts of their body while they're still alive. Children's history would talk about these things, not to sensationalize it, because they weren't sensationalized accounts. They were factual accounts of horrible things that are in various societies. And they'd talk about those things in all societies, frankly. They would talk about the horrible things that happened to political prisoners in Europe, for example. They would talk about what kings did and this did, and they would talk about it in a frank way. But it got to the point where you're not supposed to have upsetting things. So it was all made very, very kind of nice. Everything's nice. Everything's smoothed over. We don't talk about these ugly things anymore because they will upset people. And so we have this generation who grew up with only nice stuff. Everybody's very nice. And then they find out that, oh, guess what? Some of our heroes have some bad things about them, right? That we now disagree with and may have disagreed with back then. But now we have to grapple with this not niceness, but the only not niceness that people come in contact with is the not niceness of the dominant European culture. So when we talk about colonialism, we do not talk about the fact that the hideous slavery and abuse of women and the mutilation of children into begging cults. Hindu temples used to keep women as basically in cages to rape as part of the Hindu rituals. They were rape slaves for Hindu temples. And they were run by certain groups, certain of the, within the caste systems. There's the overall caste, the jatis, the various subgroups and stuff. So there were entire people whose clan trafficked women at temples. There were entire people who, and just horrific treatment of many people. The begging clans kidnapped, mutilated children, and then sent them out on the street to beg. And that's how you made money. You made money by kidnapping other people's children, mutilating them horrifically so that they were crippled, so that then they would be sympathetic to beggars. And if they got too old and didn't make enough money anymore, you just threw them out and they'd starve to death. This was part of Indian culture. This was part of Indian belief. The fact that the lowest castes the women had to be naked to humiliate them, very similar to what early Islam happened to slaves. The women could not cover their breasts because they needed to be exposed and humiliated in this culture to the higher caste. So the higher caste had to have the position where they were allowed to view the outcast women naked from the waist up. All of these things were swept away by colonialism. They were outlawed. They were no longer allowed. Entire castes there were castes that were robbers. They were highway robbers. And that's how they made their living. And they worshiped a god who approved of their highway robbing. All of these things were in, and I'm only picking on India because India is like the colony of colonies, right? But I could say it about anybody else. So yeah, there are things in colonialism that are bad. I'm sorry, the balance in India, massively good balance in India. But because you only talk about the bad things, you don't have, again, there's no nuance. You don't talk about what was wrong before and what became better and why people were still unhappy and how it could have been better. There's no nuance. The fact that today in Brazil, there are tribes that are absolutely horrifically brutal, evil, disgusting tribes based on rape, murder. Like, there is a tribe, for instance, where if a woman goes out into the woods by herself to go to the bathroom, that is an invitation to rape her because she has not brought someone else to protect her. So if she has not brought protection, she wants to be raped. If she makes eye contact with a man across the central fire, that says that she's not downcast enough, and that's an invitation to rape her. There's another caste, now it's Christian, or another tribe that is different. Now it is Christian. They used to assign little girls to cohorts of slightly older boys, and the girl had to make herself sexually available to any of the boys within the cohort to which she was assigned anytime they wanted. If she did not, the entire tribe would gang rape her in revenge. Some of these are continuing today in Brazil because of leftist beliefs about the beauty of all cultures. I'm sorry, no. If you do infanticides, if you have systematic rape, if you have systematic murder, you do not have a beautiful society, and yes, you should be stopped. I'm sorry, you should. It's evil. It's terrible. And today, there are activists from those tribes saying that, why can we not stop the infanticide? Why can we not stop the hideous abuse of women? There are tribes where all the women are covered in scars because all the men beat their wives. And if you don't get beaten by your husband, well, then I guess he must not love you. But again, you have this leftist relativism that says that, no, for them it's fine. And the women from these places are saying, no, it is not fine. It is not fine that we are beaten. It is not fine that we are raped. It is not fine that our children are murdered. This needs to stop. And they're being called bigots, and they're being called evil, and they're being called backward and not forward thinking enough for not being grateful to the beauty of their tribe that beats and rapes and kills and does all these horrible, horrible things. So there is just a lack of clarity. There's a lack of nuance. There's a lack of basic morality. You can say that many things that various people did, even if they did it for good intentions, some of the things were bad. You can even say that even if some things had good outcomes, they shouldn't have taken place, that it was overstepping boundaries. You can even say that, for instance, that yes, this did result in these good things, but it was still a wrong action. You can say all these things. You can have nuance, but today we can't have nuance. And this is an example of this unnuanced Western always bad. And if the poor stupid Muslims, because honestly, the leftists think that Muslims are just from this thoughtless, backwards, primitive sort of thing. And once they like get to understand better, and once they don't have such silly thoughts, they'll stop doing these things. It must be because they're oppressed. It must be because of this. It must be because of that. It's excuses, excuses. It's not taking them as moral actors. They are moral agents. They're making real decisions. They have real philosophies. They have real reasons behind what they do, and they're truly responsible for it. Every single human being on earth is truly responsible for the choices that they make, and they are making them knowingly. And yes, there are extremely depraved and deranged societies, and they can exist, but that doesn't mean that their activities are any less depraved and deranged. And it doesn't mean that because a society is not depraved and deranged in that way, that everything that society does is good. I'm not saying that either. But it is this utter senselessness that pervades society currently that is causing this kind of thing. It's why Tommy Robinson is in solitary confinement while men are still running around gang raping girls. And it is insanity. And honestly, y'all need Jesus. All those people, y'all need Jesus. You wouldn't be like that if you had Jesus.
Thank you for that long monologue, Mary. All I asked you is your opinion on that cartoon.
That is my opinion on the cartoon.
Pat's leather strap said, I keep looking at the cat like it's the one spitting the facts. In fact, all that was coming from Einstein right here. My cat in my lap. It may have looked like Mary's lips were moving, but it was the cat who was speaking.
I was channeling the cat.
All right. So that concludes the tweets. We do have a few other super chats to get through. Before I do that, any thoughts you want to add about Elon Musk and Islam?
I think it's good that he's becoming aware of what Islam is, and it's kind of amusing how completely clueless he was, because the normies are generally clueless. And the thing is, groups like CARE want to make you clueless. I took a course in Islam and learned nothing about it. In college, learned nothing about Islam in the entire course. It was such a goofy, we read some sort of goofball book by Sufi about Allah and mysticism and blah, blah, blah. It had no meaning and it had nothing. We learned to recite what the 5 pillars were. We learned nothing about actual Islam because Islam wants you to be ignorant. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And knowledge is the greatest weapon. And Tommy also desperately needs Jesus.
Absolutely. Alexander says that he loves how Mary's scarves are always so well matching and coordinated. You got a fan, Mary?
I work on it.
And while you are going on that long monologue, Morgie pointed out something very, very important. Ali Dawa is apparently streaming right now and has 29 people watching.
He's probably asking for money again, honestly.
While this comment was up on the screen, I went from 73 to 80 to 85 to about 92 peak. So at one point, I had 3 times as many people watching this live stream as Ali Dawa had watching his live stream, despite him having 1.3 million subscribers. Maybe he should stop begging for money. Just a suggestion. You got enough, buddy. You got enough. Or maybe he doesn't. As Pat's leather straps pointed out, he wants to buy a new whiteboard because his wife wrote, please help, in permanent marker on the last one.
Oh, that's funny.
He needs that whiteboard money, people. She can't speak. She can only write. And she used a permanent marker to say, please help. This is travesty.
What he has said is that his wife is using the whiteboard because of the jerk reactions that she's getting from other Muslims in the UK because she is a black Muslim. And she, I think, is Somali, but she might be American-born Somali. So, and that's what she claims, or that's what her husband claims, is that that's the reason that she's using the whiteboard, is because they're going to be nasty about the way she talks. It's not even because of Islam directly. He said that she was not a niqabi before she came over, but people were so ugly to her that she decided to wear the niqab so that Muslim women wouldn't be nasty to her. Interesting stuff. Can you imagine someone being that hateful to like some random famous preacher's wife? That's insane.
I would agree, but I'm also not surprised because, the black converts to Islam who are, like wealthy sports stars or something and travel the world often get outrageous hatred from Muslims in Muslim majority countries simply because they have dark skin. I wonder why. That would be the case. Couldn't possibly go back to Muhammad or anything like that. Jack Ray gifted 5 Reasoned Answers memberships.
They give a loan to Allah. What is the reward? The reward in this life is that the money will come back double. You give 100, 200 will come back. Sooner or later. Believe me, all money that is given for the sake of Allah, it comes back. And I'm sure that all of you have experience.
Comes back double, Jack Ray. You better sign up 10 aliases because they all are getting gifted Reasoned Answers memberships.
And Canada is cooked because they just chose a very poor new prime minister. So sorry, Canada. It's nice while it lasted. You guys, you need to maybe it is time for America and Canada to do a trade. We can take Alberta and Saskatchewan, and then we can give you some place like Boston. You guys can have Massachusetts. Yeah. The problem is we need California's ports. So maybe just San Francisco. That port isn't as important as LA's port. How about that?
Thank you very much for the donation, Jack Ray, as always. Listiel says, if you use logic, you note that those Islamicists are full of BS. Well, they're certainly full of BS. They're also full of the teachings of Muhammad. Coincidence? I don't know. In reference to earlier when we heard about goodly loans versus badly loans, AWLGX said a goodly loan is big money, whereas a badly loan is 2 copper coins. Yeah, sounds about right. You don't go to the temple or the mosque and donate 2 copper coins. That is a very badly loan for Allah. He wants the big money. So be sure to visit Zakir Naik in person and donate the big money, not that little pittance of $5 or whatever. Goodness gracious. President Believer triggered, who ate the apple? Obviously you did. The Giant Tree says, I normally lurk, but now with the whole points business, I probably won't lurk as much. Good, that's what it's there for. It's to encourage audience interaction. I have many people say they don't like it, that it's a distraction and they just want to learn. Well, too bad. So I'm taking a Twitch style live stream and bringing it to YouTube. This is normal behavior on a Twitch live stream, is to have weird audience interaction and such. I brought it to YouTube. Hope you like it. And apparently the Giant Tree does.
So my question for Noor, who wants to make a big point about the fact that there are black African Islamic countries taking umbrage at our Islam treats black people poorly. My question is, can non-black women be married to black people in Islam? Can Arab women be married to a black man according to Islamic law? And if not, why not? So I'm waiting in expectation for your answer. You go ahead for a while, Thaddeus, until...
Yeah, I would bring that comment up, but I don't actually.
It's back a little bit more. She was just saying that that your point's bad because there
I mean,
Central Africa and Southern Africa, there are black people. What is it? There are Muslim countries in Central and Southern Africa, so that's definitely not true, is what she said.
Okay. Yeah, this is the same logic as saying, well, most people aren't rapists and murderers, so there couldn't be any rapists and murderers in the world, or anything else along those lines. Also, it's in addition to being a logical error, it's also just plain stupid, because obviously, if the country is majority black or 100% black, then they're probably not going to exhibit prejudice against themselves. But that doesn't have any bearing on whether or not Arab Muslims exhibit prejudice based on the teachings of Muhammad.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm talking about.
I think her idea was like, oh, they never would have converted. Well, they don't tell people straight off the bat. By the way, you're going to be a second-class citizen at best. Actually, really third class, because top is Arabs. Second is non-black Muslims, and then lowest of the low, bottom class, are black Muslims.
I mean, let's just take her logic, right, and apply it to a real world scenario. Many black American slaves became Christians. Therefore, slavery must have not been bad, right? It must be good.
Must have been great.
It must be great for black people, right? Because they're converting to Christianity, the religion of the slaveholders. So there you go. Same logic. I suspect that you're not going to agree with that statement, and neither would I, of course, because slavery is absolutely evil.
Ha! What a lie! I honestly don't know what you're talking about, Mary. Arab women are allowed to marry black men. There's nothing in Islamic law that prohibits it. Oh, yes, there is. Oh, yes, there is. So there are marriages that are considered unequal, in which case that it's considered to be an inappropriate marriage for you to arrange for your daughter because they're wrong. You should not marry a woman of high status to a man of low status in profession and also in race. And we just had that. When did I have that? I'll pull it up. I know where it was. I have it right here because we streamed about it last time and I showed folks last time this teaching.
Well,
go ahead while I pull that up.
While you're looking that up, there seems to be some discussion. The weird stuff wants to know, says, I haven't heard Thaddeus talking about it. What is the correct interpretation of the gospel according to Matthew? Why don't you give the verse? Weird stuff, I didn't see it. I'll go ahead and answer your dumb question, but I'm sure it's one of the about 5 polemical things Muslims always say and has absolutely no bearing on what Christianity is actually about. As always, in the meantime, a super sticker from Cargo Crew.
O son of Adam, spend. I will spend on you. Give, then I will give you. It's difficult because you know what? These are my last few. As it is, the price is going up, the rand is going down, this is happening. Excuses. Those are excuses. You give and watch what Allah does.
Little creature there, I think it's a fox, says number 1. Thank you very much for that donation. And do let me know what Allah does, because you gave, and now you're supposed to watch what Allah does in response. So let me know during the next live stream what Allah did for you this week. Well, you're talking, yes, I know you're talking with Old Catholic, but you referenced me. So if you want to know what I think about something, instead of asking the Old Catholic what I think, just ask the question to me. It's not very complicated. And it looks like Mary has the Islamic teaching on marriage for us to view.
Okay, so this is...
It's a little small. If you can.
let me... Whoop! So this is, for example, Reliance of the Traveler, which of course you know that many of the African countries do use. Suitability in marriage for the female is in the lineage, the ancestry of the man, and religiousness, and in his being a free man, not a slave, in his profession, him being free of defects that can cause the annulment of murder. And the non-Arab is not suitable for an Arab woman. A non-Qurayshi is not suitable for a Qurayshi woman, nor is a non-Hashimi or non-Mutalabi suitable for Hashimi or Mutalab woman. So, a freed slave or one whose ancestors were touched by slavery is not suitable for a freed woman whose ancestors were free. So that's low class versus high class, but also Arab woman versus non-Arab. And there are others that specify to a finer degree that it is that not only is an Arab woman not supposed to marry a non-Arab, but a non-black woman should not be married to a black man. It depends on which group of law that you're in. But already you have Arab women being above non-Arab men, including black men. But there are specific ones about blackness, and I gave you links to entire streams that discussed these issues. So why don't you check those out and find out the truth? They usually just tell, I mean, that's why so many people get treated so badly. Why do you think that the folks who are non-Arab especially from the groups that are treated with the most disdain, treated extremely poorly when they go work in the Middle East? So that sect, this is a standard that is in all four schools. Yeah, of Sunnism. It's also in Shiism. This standard. Shiism actually says that you should not, that Shias, I think it's 12 or Shias, I believe, say that you should not even have a child with a black woman if you are a man or a Turk. So the two that they really don't like are the Turks and black women, that you should not have a half-black child. Mm-hmm. Zanj, specifically. They're okay with Ethiopian. So
Nur, good job. You're seeing the source and acknowledging that some Muslims believe this. The problem for you, of course, is that it's not just... Well, okay, in fairness, probably most common Muslims don't believe it because they have no idea it's part of the teaching. But the schools of jurisprudence, the scholars, they believe this. So it goes right back to the time of Muhammad, as Mary referenced. I have 2 long streams going through all the sources. There are literally dozens and dozens of quotes by Muhammad about his opinion of black people from sub-Saharan Africa. And there is a long history of blatant racism from the time of Muhammad up until the modern day. My video doesn't go that far. It only looks at the first 500 years or so of Islam. But person after person after person saying that the Arabs are superior to all other races, and that the Zanj people, the sub-Saharan Africans, are the worst of all human beings. Basically animals who cannot control their animalistic instincts and just want to kill one another. This is not me. I am not saying this. This is the sayings of authoritative teachers throughout Islamic history. There's a long history of African slave trade in Islam where they took and captured literally millions of black African men and women. They actually wanted the women more because in Islam, sex slaves are more valuable than labor slaves.
Oh, but you're not, hang on, you're not supposed to have sex slaves with black women in Shiism. So it's only the Sunnis who are okay with that. But even they often attempted not to have children with the black slaves, which is why there's relatively little black lineage in Arabia in spite of the extreme number of slaves that were taken.
And yes, exactly what my next point was going
Yeah.
to be. But unlike the Americas, you don't see a people of black or mixed heritage in the Middle East because the males were castrated, leading to a large number of immediate deaths and no children. And the females, when they did get pregnant, they killed the babies because they did not want the African blood to taint their perfect society.
And
This
they
is
had
the history of the religion you follow.
Yeah, there is a small number of African descended people in outside of one city in Iraq. They're treated very poorly. There is a small number of mixed race people who are again treated absolutely terribly in Yemen. And those are the only two surviving communities of millions and millions and millions of people. But I have here's Shia, in case you think it's just the Sunnis. He says that it is reprehensible to marry someone with bad character, the transgendered person, and the Zanj. That's the black person from East Africa, the Kurds, the Khazars, and the Bedouin Arabs, and the immoral persons and the drinkers of alcohol. So there you go. The Shias do not like them. So, another
there you
Ayatollah. You got, it's reprehensible to marry someone with bad character. The Zanj again. So they said that again. Again, another Shia. And another one said, it is reprehensible to have nikah with, to have legal intercourse with any black person from the Zanj region or otherwise, except for the Nubians specifically. It's reprehensible to marry a Kurd. It's reprehensible to marry an insane person. But there is no problem if he has sexual intercourse with such a woman, except that he should not desire children from her.
Mm-hmm. You can use the body for your sexual pleasure, but you cannot have, or you at least should not have, a child, because that would taint the bloodline. Mulhid al-Islam said Persia believes Umar was a black man. I assume that's a joke.
Yeah, that's a joke.
I'm looking at you, Mary. Yep, just a joke.
It's a total joke.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Mulhid al-Islam likes to
So
joke
it is true that Umar's daughter Hafsa had dark-ish skin, but she was Arab. She just had Arab dark skin. Remember that Muhammad married Aisha, who was a tiny child, rather than marrying her older sister Asma, who was ready for marriage and who was mature. Why? Because Asma had skin like her mother's skin, which was dark, whereas Aisha had skin like her mother's skin, so she was very pale and attractive. But, Muhammad didn't like the dark-skinned Asma, and so had sex with a tiny child because she's really pretty and white.
Mm-hmm. And remember, Muhammad was the whitest man in all of Arabia, according to the sources. And the penalty for saying that Muhammad was black is death, according to Sharia law. All good stuff, I'm sure.
Oh, and black women sleep around too, by the way, according to Shia Imam. So it has to be true. You must believe that black women sleep around if you are Shia.
Mm-hmm. Alexander says, wow, they really hate the Kurds, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
This very day, right?
They really hate the Kurds.
And that remains true to this day. Professor Yaffel says supports Thaddeus because he has a wife and 6 hungry cats. You forgot to mention my college-age son who lives at home. But the cats are very, very hungry. They definitely need your donations now, so be sure to get those in. And speaking of support, Moo Cow with an extremely generous donation.
Brothers and sisters, why to lose this great opportunity? Remember, when the person is on his deathbed, the last minute, he will ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to be delayed for 1 second to do what? Not to pray, not to do other things, but to give sadaqah, because sadaqah you can give it just like this, yeah, in 1 second.
So Mukal gave $100. That's pretty insane of you, Mukal. Thanks both of you for spreading the truth about Islam. Everyone, please like and share this stream with your friends, family, Discord, X, etc. That is, I hope your stream continues to grow. Much love to you and your family. Keep fighting the good fight. And I will use your donation to help grow these streams. Very much appreciated. And since Mukal is so generous, you have to do what Mukal commands. So you, whoever is listening and hearing my words now, you must share this stream with your friends, family, on Discord, and on X or Twitter. Thanks again. Got just a couple more comments here from Misha. Says, Thaddeus is the brother of Aaron, and brothers of Aaron are known to be very Islamophobic. I didn't say the earlier comment, but his first comment was about how Mary is, of course, the sister of Aaron, which then makes me the brother of Aaron. Our Kitsune says, why do they always have to include that goat singing in the clips? It's so annoying. Because that is the Quran, the most beautiful writing ever created. How dare you say it sounds like a goat? The Giant Tree says, how many years do you think they set us back because they took North Africa, Mary?
And I said probably about 300.
Armies.
Probably 300. That may be conservative.
Yes, because us very racist people here, Mary and I, acknowledge that North Africa was actually the heart of human civilization in the early Christian era. That much of the most important learning and scholarship emanated from that.
The best mathematicians absolutely did. The best math was absolutely in Alexandria. So.
Not from Europe, right? Not from Europe. In fact, Northern Europe especially was a backwater.
Now it is true that the Romanians already adopted or had learned a lot from the Ethiopians. So it's kind of interesting because Romania has the entire Balkans area, Czechoslovakia, Romania, those sorts of stuff, just have a lot of really good mathematicians in recent years, right? Really good mathematicians. And it's just kind of like a lot of them come from there. And that really started even in the 600s AD, you would find that. So it's pretty impressive.
Alexander says, we do not hate this religion enough. To be clear, I agree, but I understand that I'm talking about the religion of Islam.
Not the people.
We should absolutely hate Islam. However, we should absolutely love the Muslims who are victims of this system and do everything we can to rescue them from the system, because they are dearly loved children of God. No different than you or I. Our Heavenly Father desires relationship with every Muslim person, and He's counting on people like you and me to bring the message of His salvation to them.
Yeah, I don't want the people in the awful, disgusting, revolting tribes in Brazil to be slaughtered or anything. I want them to come to Christ and to stop doing these horrible things. I want their salvation, and I want their redemption, and I want their sanctification. That's what I want. So.
Couple more comments. Musk is clearly just being diplomatically. Muslims love it when Westerners say nice things about Islam. I'm not sure exactly when this was said, but I'm pretty sure it's probably in reference to that video clip I played of him. And I should have pointed out, but I forgot to, that he is talking to a conference in Dubai.
Yes.
So there's definitely an element of him trying to say something nice so the audience listens to him involved with that. Ambassador Keys says, immediately after the firing, I joined this channel as a member. Appreciate that very much, Ambassador Keys. And Cheeky Shicky also became a member today.
Here's the sad news. We are running out of funds. All our work is going to stop unless people like you watching this video will help us. Your donations can get you a share in a reward. Reap those rewards for years to come, inshallah. This is not a donation or a charity, but an investment for your hereafter.
In fairness, Cheeky Shaky was previously a member. They just renewed. It probably had lapsed by a day or something. But welcome back aboard, Cheeky Shaky. Very much appreciated. For all the 29 people watching Ali Dawa's live stream, understand that he really needs that money or the work is going to stop. It's just going to end. It'll be no more if you don't donate now to Ali Dawa. I, however, am fine. Mr. says, hope you're good, mate, Thaddeus. And I would say I am better than ever. I don't know exactly how things are going to work out. I certainly do not have the level of funding that I would be required for me to have a minimum standard of living at this point. But I'm very happy because I have resolved to give YouTube a full-time try, to do everything I can over the next 6 months or year to destroy Islam and see where God's plan for me takes me. I have the financial ability to do that. Obviously, if I'm going to continue it indefinitely, I will need financial support. But for now, I have enough resources to pay my own way and see what God has in store for me.
Do you know what you don't have? Oh, here it is. There's PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribestar on
yes.
On
yes.
comments. So somebody just asked, how do I support? And so here, let me drop Patreon in the chat.
So all three of those are listed in the video description. If you don't have a preference, I will make a request. I need 2 people to sign up for Subscribestar. So for some stupid reason, they won't actually activate the funding until you have 5 people signed up, and there's only 3 on Subscribestar. They say it's to prevent money laundering and fraud.
Oh yeah.
I'm not really sure how that works exactly. Because if you actually wanted to launder money, you could just
you could easily get 2 people to do it. Yeah, I don't know.
but in any case, they will. I think they make an initial charge, but then they won't do any further until you have 5 people. So if 2 people could sign up at Subscribestar, even for $1 a month, I would certainly appreciate that. Have about 45 or so subscribers over on Patreon, and about a similar number, 40 to 50 channel members here on YouTube. Greatly appreciate you all. Received many one-time donations and a few reoccurring donations on PayPal as well. I'm blown away by the outpouring of support. My financial support has like quadrupled in the last week, give or take. So thank you so much, all of you. Just a couple more comments. Cargo Crew says, Mary, you always go off on rants on Hinduism with such skewed point of view.
Oh, it's not skewed. I've read a good deal of material from the 19th century, first-hand accounts. So there is an enormous effort in India now to erase their own past, to erase their own old beliefs, to erase their own patterns, to pretend there are Hindus today who want to pretend that the caste system was introduced by the English, which is just insanity. But all of these things are true. These are the stories that people who first came into contact with various areas in India told because they were witnesses of it. And they had no preconceptions about it. They encountered this, and then they wrote about what they encountered. So,
Pat's Leather Strap says that Ali Dawa's mods accidentally blocked a bunch of his viewers. Oh, such a shame. Such a shame.
Oops.
Alexander will support you as much as you can. Thaddeus, trust Jesus. Absolutely. You know, as the scripture says, look at the birds in the sky. They don't reap or sow, and yet their Father provides for them. How much more will he provide for you? I have complete and total confidence that God is working in this, and everything will go just fine for me.
Protestant
100
believer.
people donating $1 a month adds up very, very quickly. So whatever you can give, I greatly appreciate it.
Protestant believer said, Die Hard was declared a Christmas movie at the Council of Nicaea. I can't believe I have to get angry about this. There we go.
Very, very true. Very, very true. All right. So Giant Tree says, so basically I'm an abused spouse since my wife works at Chick-fil-A. Absolutely. You should file in court tomorrow. And Cargo Crew says, Thaddeus, we didn't get much material on Musk's affinity or passivity towards Islam, and that's because he hasn't made any comments along those lines. People want to say that he hates Islam, or people want to say that he loves Islam and is about to convert, but he hasn't actually made any statements.
No.
He literally has never used the word Islam in his own writing in a tweet, right?
Which is
He
pretty funny.
retweeted things that said Islam, but he's never said Islam in his own writing. And he said Muslim a total of 2 times in all of his tweets over the last 15 years or whatever it amounts to. Very interesting that all these people think that they can read his mind and know that he's just such a hateful, bigoted person who hates Islam so much and wants all the Muslims to die. Or if you're a Muslim, that he's showing a strong desire to convert to Islam any day now.
Yeah, people do that, or he's anti-Islam, he's going to become some sort of militant Christian. I'm like, dude's nowhere near Christianity.
Yeah, I would suspect, now, not a prophecy here, and certainly not a desire. I certainly hope that he comes to know the saving grace of Jesus Christ. But I would predict that most likely his wealth will prevent him from ever embracing anything remotely resembling Orthodox religion. That's just my guess. All right. So thank you all for joining us today. We'll be back on Tuesday with Mary. Do you want to give people a preview of that, or you want to keep them in suspense?
Oh, it's going to be about Sneeko. And actually, Jai is about to go on, AP tonight about it, but it'll be about Sneeko and Uthman and all of that sort of stuff that's going down. Sneeko visited a dude in India, and dude, I'm saying India because I'm talking to somebody else. A dude in the KSA, Saudi Arabia, named Asim al-Hakim. I've quoted him any number of times, and Asim al-Hakim told him the truth, and then Uthman went and lied to him later to try to make him feel better. But he got called out by so many people, mostly his own followers, which is hilarious, but it's pretty good.
One more. Kargu says, I'm a Jane Mary. You're welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. Of course, we do hope that you come to know the saving grace of Jesus Christ, but you're not going to catch any flack or hatred from us here.
Oh, he was
and as
giving
Mary
me,
said,
yeah,
Jainism isn't Hinduism, so I don't know why you're complaining about Hindus.
No, he was saying that I was complaining about Hinduism because I'm not talking about the high-level, sophisticated views of Hinduism that really were influenced by Jainism. And came later, and we're not part of, but it is part of the Hinduism's belief system. And now the issue is that I am not even addressing what the high-level beliefs are. I'm not even addressing right then what most of the practice was from a day-to-day basis. What I was dealing with was what it results in. It does not matter whether or not people are poor. It doesn't matter whether or not people are poor. You shouldn't murder your kids. People were poor in the West, and when they were Christian, they didn't murder their kids. It doesn't matter whether or not you're poor. You shouldn't burn your widows alive. It doesn't matter whether or not you're poor. You shouldn't throw out your widows on the street to starve because they're like bad juju now. It doesn't matter whether or not you're poor. You shouldn't prostitute women and kidnap them and enslave them for your temple worship. It doesn't matter whether or not you're poor. you still shouldn't kidnap children, mutilate them, and send out to them to beg for you and to give you the money. It doesn't matter if you're poor. You should not have an entire social structure where from one generation to the next, you're all thieves or highway robbers or forced murderers or whatever. All of these things are horrible and evil. I don't care how poor you are. Other places have been poor too and have not done that. And even if they had done that, it's still wrong. It doesn't matter how poor you are. You shouldn't do these things. It's wrong. It's bad. It's evil.
Yeah, we will speak against all evil here, for sure. Snoopy says DW and AP talked about that a couple of days ago. Well, they talked about Sneeko, but that's not what Mary means, right? She's not going to be talking. I mean, she might.
Well, it is that event.
But it isn't focusing, right? The focus isn't so much on Sneeko's encounter with Sheikh Hakim as much it is Uthman trying to rescue Sneeko from what Hakim said to him. Right?
Yep. And what is super obnoxious, it appears that my computer actually somehow ate some of my slides from the very last stream. I have no idea how it did that. And it just forgot that I had them. So I'm going to see.
Cargo Cruz says he'll call in sometime, and we will certainly welcome that. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great weekend. I don't know yet if I will be doing any other activities this weekend. Kind of up in the air at the moment, waiting for a couple people to reply back to me. Until we meet again, God bless everyone. And of course, we have to close out with a prayer from Pastor Jake.
Pray this ceaselessly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me.